I come from the streets of New York in the 50s. My first initiation with maleness was at 9 years old. I joined a street gang called the Halos. I lived in a tough, dead-end New York neighborhood. And it was hard maleness. My father was a factory worker, as were most of the men in the neighborhood, so there was considerable amount of violence, homophobia. Yet I was also born with great tenderness. And tenderness on those streets was not a welcome commodity. I had to hide that part of me. And it was a wonderful, caring, heartful, loving part of me that somehow I had to keep out of view of the rest of the boys and the men. My father, my grandfather. My father and my grandfather were at war with each other, verbally and physically. So somehow that setting that I entered this life into, two men that I loved at war with each other, and being on the mean streets from about 6 or 7 years old, somehow planted a seed for me. It wasn't until I was 40 that I had a different kind of initiation. I had done a lot of deep psychological work and education and trying to cultivate my own growth process. But when I discovered men's work in May of 1988, actually I was in a men's group from 1986, but I came into the MKP New Warrior work in early 1988. And I knew immediately that this was something that I had been hungry for and craving. It felt like it was a missing piece to kind of put my psychological, emotional, and spiritual issues in a kind of a focus. Ultimately, to create a healing. I think we come in and we experience separation, we experience pain, we experience rejection, and those things that get imprinted in us in an emotional way carry as unconscious patterns through the course of a life. So I came into this men's work looking to heal, at the very least, my issues with my father and my grandfather and the way I related to men. So I've been very active in men's work since 1988. I've been very supportive and engaged in the growth of MKP in the US and more recently as a global expansion. I've committed my career, my heart, my soul to men's work. My wife and I have been together 27 years. We have two young adult sons. And I wanted it for me, I wanted it for my relationships, I wanted it for my sons, and I wanted it for my male lineage. It wasn't an accident that we came here. We came here intentionally to create a new life for ourselves. We had no clear picture, although I had a vision that something was here waiting for me. And when this opportunity came, and after having had that experience, it suddenly made sense that it was not an accident that I came here, that at the last minute I discovered that there was a training here, that I went and made such wonderful connections that reignited the flame inside me. It was never gone, had never gone away. It just needed a new spark. And the work that I've done in the last 4 or 5 months has been significant because the experience that I bring, the skill set that I have, has been so well received, and the men here are responding to it. And as they awaken to their issues and what's in their heart and soul and passion for this work for themselves as men, they can begin influencing other men. They bring the work to their families. They bring the work to their children, particularly their sons. And what started, like in the US, as just a seed that has become an incredible global organization. And it happens like that, that each community, each country, each region begins with some man doing the training and going back home and saying, wow, this is really good stuff. And there's an attraction, and men respond, and before you know it, the seed becomes a small plant, and the plant becomes a flower, and it bears fruit. Men are men, and the same issues show up all the time. So going to the training in Mexico, even though I didn't understand all the language, because I'm not yet fluent in the language, what I did understand was very similar and has repeated across the almost 30 years that I've been involved, the same archetypal issues of a boy becoming a man. How do I live as a man? How do I be true to my own integrity and authenticity? How do I separate out what the culture defines as maleness and masculinity for what I am authentically? How do I come to terms with that? That is basically what our work is designed to do, help a man ask and answer those questions. Awakened consciousness in the 20th century. Those ideas, those concepts, the spirituality began in the East. My intuition, strictly intuition, tells me that the 21st century awakening will be in the Western Hemisphere. I have heard that the medicine men and women, the shamans, the ancient Mayans, Aztecs, Incas, Olmecs, and the hundreds of other tribes that lived here hundreds, thousands of years ago are coming down out of their seclusion. You look on the internet, there are a lot of shamans out there that are offering a whole range of spiritual and healing work. I have a feeling that the Southern Hemisphere is going to be a profound influence on global healing in the years to come. And we're a beginning part of it, I think.